preparing. And I think we're good to go. So,
Okay.
hi, we're
Hi.
on. Yeah. Welcome to Next Level. Just look at my hair. Fix my hair. We didn't do an episode last week. We're doing an episode this week, though.
Yes.
I'm Emily. I host Level with Emily, and Sam Keenan produces it. Hi, Sam.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not going to say hi, or?
Oh, sorry. I was just firing up the chat, and so I heard something and it distracted me. But I guess
No,
I'll
it's
say
all good.
hi.
Okay, you could if you want to. Yeah, well, as we hopefully have some folks hop in, I'll just ramble a little more. The sun is out today. That's a lovely thing.
Yes, here in
We like talking
Minnesota.
about weather here I'm in Minneapolis. Sam is in St. Paul, although
Hmm.
we're pretty close. I mean, I live on the eastern side of Minneapolis and you live on the western side of St. Paul, so
Yeah.
that works out.
Well, at least we
Um,
represent all of the Twin Cities.
all of them, all of them. um, and this week, uh, we're featuring a conversation with Lennie Moore, who is a legendary video game composer and other kinds of composing as well. But Lennie's been doing the game music thing for a long time. We've known Lennie since like 2012, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, which is nice. It's just been he's a good dude. He's a good dude. He and his wife have a farm. So he even talks about in the episode how he had to practice bass because he's a bass player when he was younger, but he didn't have to get his calluses back because since he's on a farm, he's like, I shovel something every day. So
Right.
I'm like, didn't have to worry about the calluses, just the technique. I thought that was kind of funny, but he's
That is
just
funny.
yeah,
You'd think
yeah.
that that those calluses wouldn't be on the fingertips, because
I
that's where you need
know.
them. But I guess
But
so.
apparently,
If you're working on a farm, yeah, your whole hand is a callus probably.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, who knows what he's doing on his farm, but he didn't need to rebuild those particular ones. So, the other thing that's interesting about this, other than the fact that we know and love Lennie, is that it's not for a game, right?
Right.
This was a personal project of Lennie's, and that is pretty exciting to hear someone talk about a project that they made just because they were passionate about it. You know, no
Hmm.
one's sending him a check to write
Hmm.
this music, and I loved it. So he did a big band album. He's always wanted to do a big band album, and he did. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, some of the players on it are just legends, like
Yeah.
Wayne Bergeron, who's a lead trumpeter, but also just a really talented session trumpeter out west. And good Lord, he just wails. He's always been a wailer up there. He just nails it. So Wayne Bergeron is on there. Peter Erskine, who's um,
Drummer.
drummer who played with Weather Report and Steps Ahead, two of the most famous fusion bands ever. So he's recorded, oh my God, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, not just jazz albums. He's been on, probably hundreds and hundreds of credits to his name. So a lot of great players, and really, really fun to go through it. But what'd you think? I know it's also a super long conversation, and I know that you're not done yet, and that's
Yeah.
totally legit because it's a really long chat. But we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
So
it's one of the longest ones ever, but
one
yeah,
of them, yep, one of them. But
it's
yeah,
worth
I
it
mean,
though.
it is because he's got great stories too, but he also is just really careful to explain why things matter. Like when he talks about Arif Mardin, who was a record producer for decades out in LA. For, like he's the one who wrote the arrangement for Aretha Franklin's Respect. Like that's Arif Mardin. Okay. So him talking about that relationship and explaining who he is and how he knew him and how Arif came to be one of Lennie's mentors is just a really cool story. And you're not going to cut someone off from telling that kind of story. It's like, good Lord, please keep going. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I learned
Hmm.
so much from that chat. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a fun
Mm-hmm.
one. I listened to the music before I remembered that this wasn't for a game. I was just checking out the music and listening to it, and I was like, wow, this is some crazy game score. But then I got into working on the episode, and I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Because I forgot. You told me that it wasn't for a game, but when I was listening, I didn't realize it. But yeah, but it's because the production is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really transparent, and it's got a really great balance of like being very alive, but also having everything just recorded very intimately and beautifully well. And the mix is great, and everything, the performances are unbelievable. And
he talks about recording techniques at some point, and he wasn't able to implement them because it was all recorded during COVID, so he couldn't do anything like he had originally envisioned, and was very like set on doing it live. But then the second COVID hit, he knew he was able to pivot really quickly emotionally. I don't think anyone can do that. So kudos to him for being able to make that pivot so quickly. Like in moments, he was just like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do now. And but he talks about positioning mics in a studio and picking up bleed from certain instruments across the room and how that's mixed into the room. So it's just cool to hear him talk about that kind of stuff. And I know that you really get into that. But let's hear some of the music if you want to.
Okay.
Just to give you a sense for what it's like, and when you were talking about just the production quality, I think one of the places that shines through the most is in the track that has oud on it, which is the one about Arif Mardin, and it's called the Mardini effect. Yeah. And just how he was able to make the oud still be heard, because if you think about it, you've got 4 to 5 trumpets, 4 trombones, and 5 saxophones, and any of those people can be playing any instrument at any given time, but just the fact that's 5 plus 8 is 13 people playing instruments. So, to make an oud, which is a plucked, kind of softer sounding plucked instrument, strummed and plucked. So anyway, let's listen to a little bit of the Mardini effect. And I'm going to go ahead and skip past to some of the oud.
Okay.
Oudier parts.
The oudier parts.
Yeah. So cool.
So cool. Yeah.
So cool.
Who's playing that oud?
Oh, he says in the episode, I don't remember his
That's okay.
name.
Yeah.
I think it starts with a J, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some great stuff. Yeah, just those quick, precise lines, and also it just is a really interesting, different sound.
Yeah, I know. To put that in like a big band. Yeah, I just loved it. And how you can hear the Fender Rhodes in the back or whatever the keyboard is. It sounds like a Fender, but it's like, I just loved how you could hear all the voices, and they just blend together really well. And that track itself is so cool. And there's this really cool, because Lennie plays bass. And let me skip ahead to some of the parts where the oud is soloing, because it's basically just oud and bass, Lennie on electric bass, and it's so cool. So I'm gonna just I might have to skip around a little bit. We'll get there. That's the drummer, Peter Erskine, right? There's Lennie. Yeah, I just loved that. I loved that.
Yeah.
Drums, electric bass, and oud. Yes, all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I
I
know.
just
That should
love it.
they should just make a trio, you know?
Yeah, I know. So good. So
Yeah.
good.
And the bass just on the whole thing is really great too. It's got a
Hmm.
really like kind of gnarly ness to its tone in a good way,
Yep.
like with some of those like quick moves on the low notes and stuff like that. So there's
Hmm.
some stank on it, you know.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Um, let's see. Oh my God. So there's 8 tracks on the album. It's around an hour of music, and he wanted to do vinyl, but um, this is the kind of stuff, right? So on a CD, you can fit what, 70, 72 minutes of music, something like that.
I forget, but yeah, that sounds about
Something,
right.
it's like 71, 70, something like that. But a vinyl record, it's like 22 minutes a side.
Right.
So
You can fit
just
more, but then it gets to be a big problem with skipping and yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Kind of like a magnetic tape, right? Like you could make a mixtape on a 120-minute cassette tape, but
Hmm.
that fucking thing was going to get caught in your tape player for sure, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can do these things, but you sacrifice, you make big compromises to do it. So that's why most vinyl, 22 minutes aside.
Hmm.
Well, so he's looking at then 3 vinyls with a blank side. And so
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's kind of a funny part of the he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that." It's like you're writing it to be an album.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
wouldn't have thought of that
funny,
either. Yeah.
right? Yeah. But yeah, eight tracks, and I did not make this clear at the beginning of this, which forgive me, but it's called Mentors, and if you could imply from that, he's written a track for each, for people who have meant a lot to him in the course of his musical career. So
Hmm.
another one of those people that, I just loved hearing him talk about, Toshiko Akiyoshi,
Yeah.
who's just phenomenal jazz pianist
Hmm.
and just legendary. Like so many great recordings going back into the late 50s, right? So and he took composition lessons from her. I think at a summer camp or something like that, but just made an indelible impression on him for his life. And so the final track is dedicated to her. And what I love in particular about that is that he kind of goes traditional in a way that he like starts it with acoustic bass. So he does not play bass on this track. He got an acoustic bass player to play. And he starts with a bass solo, which I love, because
Hmm.
that's just like, if you ever, which is probably absolutely no one who will ever hear this, if you've ever worked in jazz radio other than you, Sam, people don't want to hear a bass solo. So I just love that he's like, here's my bass solo. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
let's listen to a little bit of this track is called Intentionality, which is one of the things he says he learned from her as a composition instructor. Just love how that sneaks in. Yeah, I really loved that. I
Hmm.
loved that and how
Hmm.
that started off, and I think it's a great track for to end the album. It's a really really good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, bass solos are very tricky because they
They're hard to
can they
hear.
can they're hard to hear, and everything gets kind of muffled out, and a
Hmm.
lot of times the way you mix a bass, you're taking out stuff that had that you would need to get all of the detail in a solo,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
yeah, quick moves on any sort of low instrument and stuff, it can be hard.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's a track with some great tromboning that
Oh yeah,
Yeah, which
Essence.
I had written down. Yeah, Essence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another instrument that it's like it's not easy to get good solos on the trombone and good
Right.
distinction between notes and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some pretty great trombone playing on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, let's listen to
It's
some of
easy
it.
to cue up, but
It is. It is. Now that when the melody is, and he talks about this too, it's in very high register of the trombone, but obviously that's not a natural place for a trombone to stay. So the
right.
player, of course, goes all over the range. And yeah, let's listen to some of that. Get through the intro because I think the melody
Mhm.
starts pretty quick on this one. And then I can try and find the solo too, a little bit of soloing.
Mhm.
Let me. Oh, yeah, right away. Oh, maybe not right away. We'll get there. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
just
some tasty tromboning.
it really is. That's like, that's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
And just the tone of a trombone is so great when it's played well. It's
Yeah.
just nice. So like for
Mm-hmm.
a brass instrument, it's soft and it's
Yeah.
got a nice lushness to it,
Warm.
and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
less pinchy than a lot of horns, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's good stuff.
good stuff.
Yeah. What else stood out to you?
Um, there was another track. I don't know if it was if it was Toshiko playing electric keys on Two Peas in a Pod.
Oh no, that is his other friend, and I can't quite remember his name right now off the top of my head. Let me look it up. I meant to have this lineup up.
That was one of the tracks that like the just that keyboard line almost seems like it could be leaning into video game world.
Which
you know
track?
but it's like endless. Two peas in a pod.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of course.
Yeah, and there's this electric keyboard line that just is really quick and precise, and it like if you didn't know any better, it almost sounds like somebody programmed it, but knowing that it's a human being playing it is just
Yeah.
very cool.
Let's listen to some of it. Two peas in a pod. So this is for his two friends, Nick Manson, who's the one playing the Fender,
Mm-hmm.
and Andy Suzuki, who's also a tenor player and plays beautiful tenor throughout the album, but he's playing flute. And these three of them, Nick, Andy, and Lennie, grew up together, basically. He met Andy Suzuki when Andy was like 15, and Lennie was like 17 or 18. So they've been lifelong friends, and so Andy and Nick play on this track together, Two Peas in a Pod. Which part were you talking about now, Sam? Was it during the solo section or?
I'm not sure how far but
Okay.
I think it must be in the solo section because
Okay.
the keys just go off and just
Yeah.
do this really fast dancing around. I should have
Oh no, that's okay.
figured out a timing. I'll try to remember to do that sort of thing in the future. So
Yes, Sam.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding. It's totally fine. So Andy flutes first. I was going to say solo for. He flutes for a while. So I'm going to skip ahead.
I wish that's how that was said. That would be great.
I want that to be a verb right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go flute.
I'm going to go flute for a bit.
I mean, but listen to him flute.
Close the shades.
Jazz flute is something I used to hate when I was younger, and now I absolutely love it. I love jazz flute so much. All right.
Well, it's the style of recording and stuff can make a huge difference with jazz flute. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. All right, here's some keyboard. Fender Rhodes, love it. So good.
So good. Yep.
So yeah, that's what we're doing this week. And so again, the album is called Mentors by Lennie Moore. We also did briefly talk about Outcast 2. Lennie, of course, most famous in the video game world for his soundtrack to Outcast. And Outcast 2 is coming out probably this year. We don't know a release date quite yet, but that's another great reason we'll have Lennie on again in the future. But yeah, we spent a lot of time just digging through not every single track. There are certainly tracks we didn't really hit on. You'll hear a little bit of every single track in the episode, though. And yeah, Lennie Moore is such a just positive, like giving person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I just love talking to him and hearing him talk about music and his process and just what all these people meant to him is pretty cool thing. So
yeah, and it is cool to highlight somebody's like passion project that's that isn't specifically for any other reason than just the music and like you said, like he's he didn't get paid to make this, so it's a good it's a good opportunity to buy something from him and support
absolutely. So yeah, well, I'm good on that. I'm just, there's so much to share with it, and you'll hear it all on Friday. It's a long one, but it's worth it. It's really good music and good fun.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's a deep dive, and it's worth checking out. And it's also fun, just like as we do these next levels, which we've only been doing for a little while now. It just to me it highlights just the range of stuff that we're covering on the show. I never really thought about that. I knew it was the case, but I never really thought about it. But you line up the last 10 episodes in a row, and it's just such an eclectic group of different kinds of music and approaches and philosophies even and it's neato. So
and I always think, like, I'm starting to think of like because VGM Con always happens in mid-April, and I think about like post VGM Con as like a season for us in a way, because I almost always make connections with a lot of remixers and cover artists and things along those lines. And so we have some of those kinds of interviews coming up too, where it's not necessarily people making original music but that they've composed, but they're still amazing musicians dealing with video game music. And so that's like this whole other corner too that we're going to start getting into a little more. I did also just finish up a really great interview with McLean Deemer, who of course, is from Guild Wars 2, and he did Salt and Sacrifice, but also he has composed the new game from Cyan Worlds, and Cyan Worlds made Myst and Riven, and so their new game is coming out in like 3 weeks, and I've heard all of it. We just did a great interview about it, so we will have plenty of those types of interviews through the summer as well, but I feel like this is like remix season coming up because I've got a lot of remixers on my calendar for interviews, so that'll be kind of fun too. But that just speaks to like the variety, and also I think just 10 years ago this would not have been the case. Like it just the depth is there now. The depth and the quantity is there now, and the quality. So yeah, it makes it easy in a way for us to bounce around, and it also is really, I think, fun for both of us to hear all the different aspects of this corner of our world. So yeah, join us. Sorry. I'm like
join us.
Yeah. Join us on Discord. Link is down in the show notes, and find us on Patreon if you can support us financially. We'd be so grateful. Patreon.com/level. And the episode will come out Friday. I work a lot tomorrow and Friday. I don't know if I'll get it posted before I go to work Friday morning early, or if it'll happen late at the end of the day. I'm not sure, but it will happen Friday. So that'll
right
be,
on. Yeah.
You'll have Lennie Moore to spend the weekend with here from Level. So, all right, Sam Keenan.
Sweet.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace out.
Peace out.